So today we're going to talk about the most basic skill in a source-based case study. Of course, you talk about source handling skills and everything. After source handling, this is actually the most basic of skills. Now, in order for you to be able to answer many other questions, the skill of inference is going to be very important. Now, what exactly is inference? We have been hearing, what can you infer? I can infer this. What exactly is an inference here? So, basically, an inference here is you are trying to draw a conclusion. Okay? Draw a conclusion based on the information that is given to you. Okay? And it actually is a point that summarizes the information. Okay? That summarizes the information from the source. Okay? It should be short and sweet. Okay? Not something that is long and cumbersome. Okay? I'm going to put it here very clearly. No, we don't want it to be long and cumbersome. Okay? So the question here is, what exactly is the difference between an inference and a message? If they ask you what is the message of the source versus what can you infer from the source, is there a difference? And if there is a difference, where is the difference? So the difference here in terms of a message versus an inference is actually quite it's not like a very huge difference in a sense. A message question still requires you to make an inference, but the inference is of a larger context. Later I will show you an example of what do I mean by a larger context. So a larger or a broader context in this sense here. So it can be actually, for example, if you actually notice your source-based case studies, there's always an issue question. The message can actually be geared towards trying to address the issue question here. Okay? But generally, the idea is still the same here. You still need to draw a conclusion. But the conclusion that you draw is, like I mentioned, of a larger and a broader context. Okay, let's take a look at an example of an inference question first. Let's start with something simple. Drawing a conclusion. Okay, here, let's take a look at source A. So this source is a comment made about chicken McNuggets. Alright? And if we take a look here, they tell you that chicken McNuggets is not a solid piece of breast meat. Okay? It's a blend of different chicken parts, artificial ingredients. Okay? Soak up tons of oil when they are deep fried. Okay? Saturated and trans fat. Okay? These kind of fats actually contribute to weight gain and are not great for your heart in the long run. Okay? High sodium content, raise your blood pressure. In a nutshell here, in order for us to draw that conclusion, we need to look at the entire source as a whole. Okay? When we look at the entire source as a whole, we draw that conclusion. What is the conclusion we can draw about chicken nuggets? So nuggets is unhealthy. Or if you tell me, for example, nuggets is bad for health. Okay? Pardon me, it's supposed to be nuggets are unhealthy, nuggets are bad for health. Okay? Pardon me here with the grammatical error. So let me just change this a little bit. Okay. So nuggets are unhealthy, nuggets are bad for health. Okay? So if you realize this, right, an inference generally is a conclusion that you directly draw from the source. So we take a look here, immediately we can see that, oh yeah, with all this information here, yeah, nuggets are actually unhealthy. Okay, so an inference, basically, you draw a conclusion directly from the source. Okay? Then you would ask me, then what exactly is the difference between this and a message of the source? How much can you actually deviate from a source like this when, generally the conclusion is pretty clear that it's actually talking about unhealthiness of the chicken nuggets. Let's take a look now. Using the exact same source, now I'm going to add in one more dimension. So this is what I mean by an issue question. There is a larger question that governs this source-based case study. So the specific source is about chicken nuggets, right? But the bigger question here is talking about fast food. So is it beneficial? So is it good for the people or is it bad for the people? So if I were to ask you what is the message of the source, like in this question here, okay, you can choose to actually address this question here. So the message of the source is, fast food is not beneficial. And you can bring in the slight specific inference, as they are not healthy. They are not healthy. Okay, so fast food is not beneficial as they are not healthy. You can tell the difference between this answer that I have and the answer I had earlier on. The answer earlier on was chicken McNuggets is unhealthy. Here I'm talking about fast food, not beneficial. So I'm actually looking at something in a more broader context, in a larger context, looking at this question here, the issue question there. So this is how I look at things from a broader perspective, a larger perspective, in order for me to answer a message question.